Have you ever looked into her eyes and felt like she already made up her mind? Like somehow she read your whole story in a second and closed the book without even starting the first chapter? That feeling, that quiet collapse inside, it's familiar to too many men. But here's something most guys never understand. Women don't know what they want until it stirs something in them, until a certain energy presses against their instincts. It's not about the face or the status or the perfect thing you said. It's when they feel a presence that refuses to bend, a presence that doesn't shift to win their favor. That's when something changes. You've been fed this belief that attraction is immediate, that if she doesn't show interest on the spot, you're done. But attraction isn't a yes or no. It's more like a slow-turning dial that begins to move when you stop trying to turn it. If you've ever walked away wondering if it was your money or your height or your job that didn't cut it, you're asking the wrong question. The real question is, did you show up as someone she's never encountered before? A man who doesn't chase, who doesn't explain himself, who isn't waiting for a reaction to feel like he matters. That man, he's not loud, he's not flashy, but he is unforgettable. He doesn't perform because he doesn't need to. And the moment a woman feels that, something unfamiliar wakes up in her. She doesn't know what it is yet, but she knows it doesn't come from the usual places. And that's what this is really about. Not tricks, not pickup lines, but becoming the kind of man whose silence leaves an echo in the room. The kind who doesn't seek, but attracts. Let's begin with this. Don't treat her beauty like it's rare. Watch how she acts instead. Most men throw their entire frame away the second they see a beautiful woman. They hand over all their confidence like it's a gift she didn't ask for. But beauty? It's common. You see it on every screen, every scroll, every ad. What's rare is grace under pressure. What's rare is self-awareness. What's rare is how someone treats people when there's nothing to gain. So you want to stand out? Watch. Watch how she treats the server. Watch how she handles being ignored. Watch what she does when she's not the center of the room. Don't react to her looks. Observe her rhythm. Because while others are trying to be seen, you're reading the room. And that's power. Let her wonder why you're not jumping in. Let her notice that you don't orbit like the rest. That stillness you hold, what calm you bring. It breaks the script she's used to. And that break, that pause where she can't place you, makes you magnetic. You want a real example? Imagine you walk into a bar. She's at the counter, glowing like every movie scene says she should. Most guys are waiting for their chance. And you? You sit back. You listen. You notice how she speaks to the bartender. Entitled or kind? You catch what she says when she thinks no one's listening. Is it empty noise or thoughtful depth? And here's the thing. You're not judging. You're just aware. From that place of quiet strength, you make your move. Or maybe you don't. But either way, it's on your terms. And that's what shakes her frame. Not your words, not your compliments, your refusal to dance for her attention. Because when a man like you doesn't react to beauty, you become the one she can't stop thinking about. Not because you played hard to get, but because you didn't play at all. Next, let's flip the narrative entirely. Stop chasing. You are the prize. That sounds arrogant until you understand what it means. Most men walk into an interaction like they're on trial. They hope they'll be enough. They hope they don't mess it up. They shrink without knowing it. But when you put her above you, she starts believing it too. Not out of cruelty, just out of instinct. Because of neediness. It repels. It feels like an imbalance. It smells like insecurity. And attraction needs tension, not collapse. The world has told you to impress, to win her over, to earn your way in. But what if that's the biggest lie you've ever believed? What if the truth is that you are the thing of value, not because you're perfect, but because you know your path, your standards, your presence? The man who walks into a room not looking for validation but looking for alignment moves differently. He's not asking for permission to lead. He simply leads. And that is what women feel before they understand. It's not about dominance. It's about sovereignty. You're not shrinking to be liked. You're expanding to be seen. You want her respect? Then stop selling yourself. Start standing in yourself. You don't have to be the loudest or the toughest or the richest. You just have to stop giving her the judge's chair. You're not waiting to be picked. You already picked yourself. Now you're simply asking, does she align with that version of you? That mindset changes everything. You stop seeking approval and start evaluating. You stop reaching and start watching. And here's the result. She starts leaning in. She starts trying to understand. Who is this man that doesn't need me to like him? That's when the real game starts. Because attraction doesn't ignite when you chase. It lights up when you hold it still. This isn't ego. This is emotional equilibrium. It's the balance that most men have never learned. You've been living in the wrong story for too long. The one where you had to impress your way into connection. Let it go. You are not below her. She is not above you. You are different, but equal. And the man who holds that truth without shaking becomes the one she remembers when everyone else starts to blur. Now here's a paradox you need to absorb deep into your bones. The more you need her to like you, the less likely she ever will. Not because you're not valuable, but because the moment you need her approval, you've already dropped yours. Neediness doesn't just show up in your words. It shows up in your posture, in your breath, in the way you try to fill silences like they're dangerous. But silence isn't your enemy. It's your ally. Because a man who's comfortable in the quiet is a man who isn't looking to be rescued by attention, and she can feel that. Women have an instinct for emotional hierarchy. If you walk into a conversation hoping to gain something, your energy already says you're below. But if you walk in without hunger, if your self-worth isn't tied to her response, then suddenly she's not reacting to your need. She's responding to your presence. That's how everything shifts. You're not performing anymore. You're just there, grounded, steady, full. You're not trying to say the right thing. You're not analyzing her every reaction. You're just expressing, offering, letting the moment unfold. If she connects, great. If she doesn't, also great. Because the man who knows his value doesn't walk away broken. He walks away whole, still, clear, unshaken. And that kind of energy, it lingers. That's how you attract even when she wasn't interested at first. Not by pushing harder, but by needing less. There's something different about a man who knows how to flirt without falling into the trap of overcompensation. Flirting isn't about filling the silence with praise or making sure she knows she's beautiful. She already knows that. 100 men have already told her that today. And if you're just number 101, then you're forgettable. Not because you said anything wrong, but because you said what's expected. What's expected doesn't move her. Tension does. Contrast does. Curiosity does. Real flirting is a dance that begins with confidence, not with need. It starts with a look that says you've seen her, but it doesn't beg for her to look back. It starts with a bold line, a subtle smile, and then it pulls away. Not as punishment, not as a game, but as a signal. Your energy isn't free. Your attention has a rhythm, and she's not in control of it. Most men make the mistake of giving too much too soon, pouring out attention like it's on sale, hoping more equals better. But all that does is drown the spark. When you flood the moment, you erase the mystery. You smother the air she needs to feel something real. So you flirt by creating a moment, then letting it go unfinished. You start something in her mind, then give her the space to think about it. That's what draws her in. The gap, the pause, the sense that something just slipped out of reach, and she wants to pull it back. Maybe you lean in, whisper something unexpected, then turn your body away, not cold, not rude, just elsewhere. And that absence becomes louder than anything you said. What's rare is not what's said, but what's left unsaid. A man who knows when to disappear becomes unforgettable. She'll feel the contrast between presence and absence, between energy and restraint, and she'll begin to associate you with the one thing no one else offers her: uncertainty. And uncertainty lives in the body. It stays there, even when the conversation ends, even when the night is over. That electric question, who is he? What was that? Why did it feel different? That's the beginning of attraction. Not the climax, but the opening chord that lingers until it demands resolution. Now here's another truth. Compliments aren't always a connection. They can be the opposite. Most men use them as currency, hoping that praise will buy her attention. But she's not blind. She knows when your words are trying to earn something. The moment she senses that your compliment comes from need, it loses weight. It becomes noise, not a signal. Instead of complimenting her, challenge her, not in a combative way, not to dominate, but to show her that you see past her reflection, to show her that you're not here to flatter, you're here to feel what's real. Women don't want passive admiration. They want engagement, stimulation, friction, not the angry kind, but the kind that says, I'm here, I'm present, I have my thoughts, and I'm not afraid to bring them into the space. When she says something you disagree with, don't pretend to agree just to keep things smooth. That's what everyone else does, and it makes you invisible. Instead, hold your ground with calm conviction. Say, I see it differently. Then pause. Let her feel it, because in that moment, she's meeting someone with a spine, and spine is rare. Disagreement isn't rejection, it's recognition. It's proof that you're real, not a mirror, not an echo. That reality is what gives her something to push against, something to feel, something to remember. Challenge builds the edge where desire lives, where respect begins. And when you challenge her, not to argue, but to wake her up, you tap into a deeper layer of connection, the kind where she has to lean in, where she can't coast. And here's the beauty of it. When you challenge her in the right way, when you spark a thought instead of offering applause, she feels alive. Compliments soothe, but the challenge awakens, and that awakening is unforgettable. Now let's talk about attention, because this is where most men lose everything they've built. They give it away too quickly, too often, without making her earn any of it. Attention without standards is like gold dust thrown in the wind. It might shine for a moment, but it doesn't stay. It doesn't root, and it doesn't get valued. Most men reveal their entire interest within minutes. They compliment before she said a word of depth. They ask for her number before she's offered any part of herself. And in doing so, they send one clear message. My interest is easy. My presence is cheap. But the man who makes her earn his attention, he becomes the mystery she wants to solve. He becomes the warmth she leans toward. Because it's not about withholding. It's about having standards. It's about not investing until you see something worth the investment. It's not arrogance. It's discipline. And discipline is rare. And rare is powerful. Let her feel your attention slowly, like a fire warming the room, not a floodlight that burns too hot and fizzles too fast. Let her work a little for your engagement. Not to punish, but to invite her into something meaningful. Because what's earned is remembered, and what's given too easily is dismissed. The man who gives his attention with purpose, who doesn't chase, but chooses, becomes the prize by default. Now here's where the real power move comes in. You leave before she expects it, not to ghost her, not to play games, but to maintain the polarity that makes her desire you in the first place. When you stay too long, when you always respond, when you make yourself endlessly available, you flatten the dynamic. You become predictable. And what's predictable is invisible. But when you walk away at the peak of connection, when you end the conversation while the energy is still warm, you create a hole in the moment. And that hole becomes a craving. She won't say it, but she'll feel it. And it'll live in her like a question she needs answered. That's the secret. Leaving at the right time makes you linger in her mind far longer than anything you could have said by staying. Let her miss you. Let her feel the gap where your presence used to be, because that absence will teach her more about your value than 100 messages ever could. And the man who walks away from strength, not fear, not bitterness, but clarity, is the one who's remembered. So don't be afraid to leave, to be silent, to hold your energy like it's something sacred, because it is. And when she realizes that your presence isn't guaranteed, that your attention has edges, that your world isn't waiting for her to approve of it, she will start to lean in. She will start to wonder. And that wonder is where it all begins. The final move most men never make is the one that transforms everything. Not proving, not pleasing, but simply walking away when staying would mean shrinking. That doesn't mean ghosting or disappearing out of fear. It means you're not available to be consumed by someone who hasn't shown they can value your presence. The truth is, most men stay long after their value has been overlooked, hoping that one more text, one more compliment, one more moment will win her over. But what they don't realize is this. The longer they linger without being seen, the more invisible they become. Attraction doesn't die in rejection. It dies in familiarity, in overexposure, in the slow erosion of tension. So when you feel that shift, when her curiosity has faded, when her responses flatten, and the chase begins to tilt in her favor, that's not your cue to try harder. It's your sign to step back, to reclaim the frame. Because if she never gets the chance to feel your absence, she'll never recognize what it meant to have you there in the first place. Your stillness, your decision to walk, not with anger but with grace, is what rewrites the story. She expected you to beg. She expected you to fight for a place in her life. But when you don't, when you simply vanish with your dignity intact, the contrast cuts through her expectations. Suddenly, you're not the guy who tried too hard. You're the man who knew his worth, and let that speak louder than any final word ever could. This is where silence becomes your greatest power, because it says what your voice doesn't need to. It says, I do not chase where I am not valued. I do not explain myself to someone who only listened halfway. I do not perform for the chance to be noticed. That silence lingers in her world like a missing rhythm. It unsettles her, not because she lost something, but because she never realized what she had until it was gone. And while every other man is still trying to crack the code, you become the one she thinks about when the noise fades. Because power isn't in the follow-up, it's in the restraint. It's in the refusal to dilute your presence just to maintain a place you were never truly welcomed into. When you finally understand that your energy is a currency, and it doesn't lose value when others fail to see it, you'll stop spending it on people who never earned it. You'll stop explaining, proving, and hoping. And you'll start choosing. You'll start moving differently. You'll start showing up for yourself first. And that shift, that unshakable recentering is when everything changes. Because the man who doesn't chase approval radiates a force that can't be faked. It's not swagger. It's not bravado. It's the quiet conviction of someone who lives by principle, not permission. He knows that rejection is not a sign of failure, but a signpost pointing him away from what was never meant to carry his light. If you've been bending backward trying to win her, trying to become the ideal image in her mind, take a breath and release that illusion. No woman is worth your self-abandonment. No connection is worth your loss of presence. Any dynamic that makes you feel like you have to shrink to belong will never grow into anything real. So stand tall, even in the silence, especially in the silence. Let your stillness say everything that your words no longer will. When she realizes that you are not just another option circling her world, but the gravity she overlooked, that's when the reversal happens. Because the moment a woman senses that you do not need her to see your value to remain in it, she starts questioning the lens through which she judged you. Maybe she comes back, maybe she doesn't. But that's not the point. The point is, you no longer orbit around whether she does, because you've stepped into your center. And that center is what draws the right people, the aligned ones. The ones who don't need to be convinced to stay, because they feel the weight of your presence without being asked to. And here's the final truth most men avoid. Not everyone is meant to desire you. Not every woman is your match. And thank God for that. Because you're not here to win the masses. You're here to walk with clarity. To attract the rare kind of woman who recognizes strength in stillness, presence in pause, and power in the man who knows he is the standard, not the seeker. So stop reaching. Stop hoping to be seen. Become the vision that cannot be ignored. Not through noise, but through depth. Not through perfection, but through truth. Not through begging, but through boundaries. Because the man who knows he does not have to be everyone's type becomes the one who sets the type others aspire to reach.